Okay, so you're going to have a go at doing a Whitechapel paper, and you need to complete it, so we need to have a little look at what you need to do. I hope you all have a listen to this, but of course we'll see, won't we, from the viewing figures. First question, describe 2 features of accommodation for the poorer people in the Whitechapel area. Well, if we look over here, it tells you what I have to mark. So if you give me 2 valid features of where people lived in Whitechapel, then you'll get 2 marks. The second mark is awarded for supporting information, and the mark scheme, I can't show you any examples because that's basically the answer, but the mark scheme shows us some examples which suggests you don't have to write very much in terms of supporting information. So with that in mind, suggest to me, I mean, it's only a 4-mark question, and I should tell you on there, but it's a 4-marker. You can get 4 marks from 4 sentences, so that's probably what you should attempt to do. Of course, if you've got time at the end of an exam, you can always come back and add more. A few of you who are top grade students, conscientious, always want to do well, you might be tempted to write a page on this, but that's not going to help you. You know, when I read it, I'm not going to think, oh, they've worked really hard on this. I'm going to think, oh God, there's no good practicing that. They need to practice getting these marks quick because they've got to work quickly in their actual exam. On to the second question. Study sources A and B. Here is source A, and here is source B. And those of you who are on the ball will remember this source because we've been through it before summer. But of course, one of my key themes that we keep referring back to is going over something is not the same as learning something. So I have actually been through the answers to these questions with you before, and you've answered those questions to a fashion, but how much of it do you remember? Because that will show you whether you've actually learnt it or not, or whether at the time you understood it. But understanding, learning, not the same thing. So what does the mark scheme say? Well, you have to judge the sources. This is the top of the mark scheme, by the way. I'm not worried about the rest. You have to judge how useful those sources for the specific inquiry asked. So you're not being asked generally how useful are those sources. You're being asked for an inquiry into the effectiveness of the police force. Remember ages ago I had a pen in my hand and I said, how useful is this pen? It's a very different question to how useful is this pen if you're stranded on a desert island. So you have to be answering in respect of this. You will be referring to the effectiveness of the police in Whitechapel in 1888 in your answer. That would come up in your writing, otherwise you are not judging the sources how useful they are for that. You are just judging the sources how useful they are generally, and that will not get you to the top of the mark scheme. And it's a standard trap people fall into. It says a whole load of blah 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 which you can read yourself, but I've put down here what in red what you really need to make sure you've got in your answer. The provenance. Write about the provenance of the source. So in this case, whoops, gone too far. Okay, we'll look at source B. This is the provenance, that it is an article from the Times newspaper, October 1888, and the Times was a national newspaper read mainly by the upper classes. This is the provenance, this is the content. Now from what it says in here, I know that you need to write, if you want top marks, about the provenance and the source content together, because they are one of the same, you know, they're from the same thing. You have to be able to explain how they affect each other. How does this provenance affect what is in the content here? It's more likely going to be that way than the other way around. And also, you have to demonstrate your own knowledge to help you to question the sources. So those 4 things to remember. This is the toughest question, and it's the one that you really do need to nail because it's worth 8 marks. It's quite a lot for this paper. So focus on the specific inquiry, look at the provenance of the sources as well as the content, and make sure you use your own knowledge to help you to question the sources. I can't get to the top of this one without it going too far. There you go. There's the provenance at the top of this source. And finally, and I've put in here the weirdest question because I've never known questions like this on exam papers, it's 2B. or not to be. No, I'm kidding, being silly, Sunday night. So you get asked, what could you follow up, or how could you follow up source A to find out more about the effectiveness of the police? So it follows on from to A about how useful the source is for the effectiveness of the police. No source is perfect, so it's asking you to do what a historian would do. If a historian gets a source and he looks at it, or she looks at it and thinks, there's something here that's not quite telling me everything, what would I find to help me to answer the questions that are coming up in my mind with this source? Well, this is what you're doing here. So first of all, I have to look, what is the thing that grabs your eye and makes you think about source A? What do you look at and go, might need to find out more about that in respect to the effectiveness of the police force? The question you would ask, so what is the detail, what is the question, what type of source would you use? And that's why I keep saying, how many different types of sources are there in the Whitechapel thing? And how many can you name? And how this might help answer my question. Now, for each bit, it's 1 mark, according to the mark scheme. But the problem is, if you get this bit wrong, if you choose the wrong bit, I mean, more likely you might stumble at the good question to ask. It's like a chain. It works like a chain. If you get the first one wrong, you're probably not going to get the rest of them right, because it's quite important to choose a useful bit of info from the source. So there you go, that's the Whitechapel paper, and hopefully this will help you to get the top marks in this example, because you will be doing this in your proper mock exams. We'll keep referring back to Whitechapel, but after this, we're putting it to bed. It's no more Whitechapel.